we need to ask ourselves and really be honest with ourselves that, and perhaps ask this question now. And I think a lot of you, it's something that you have on your mind. And here's the thing, there is factionalism in Zanu PF and there's factional battles. However, there is always a common denominator that each faction tends to mention. So from Emmerson Mnangagwa, his main goal or their main reasoning to push the ED 2030 agenda is that the people of Zimbabwe want Emmerson Mnangagwa to carry on up until 2030. I mean, even the Herald had to publish an article actually stating that Emmerson Mnangagwa must lead, or 98% of Zimbabweans had agreed for Emmerson Mnangagwa to lead beyond 2030. Now, from the other faction, there's all this, the same person exists. The other faction says that Zimbabweans are resisting the ED 2030 plan. The other faction is also bringing Zimbabweans as a common denominator. So Chiwenga and Mnangagwa's faction, all of them, they need the common man, the common Zimbabwean, to actually remove each other, or for credibility's sake, because at the end of the day, a government cannot lead in a country where its citizens do not sign the social contract. Normally, when we sign a social contract of allowing a government to lead this way, actually when we vote. But even at that point, sometimes if the elections are rigged and there is disagreement, you get to see what is happening in DRC, for example. A war breaks out when citizens do not agree with whatever government that is in there. Therefore, that's why there is a war in DRC. That's what causes war in the first place. So either faction needs us, but can they be trusted? Which faction do we lean towards? I would lean towards Chiwenga's faction, but however, I won't lie to you, these people, they cannot be trusted. Either of them, especially even Chiwenga's faction, you can't trust them. Number one, if we want to speak about, they are now talking about Vanawe Zimbabwe have suffered, Vanawe Zimbabwe they don't have this, Vanawe Zimbabwe they don't have this. In fact, even including how the opposition was kicked out of parliament, or how A.D. Mnangagwa is sending his stooges to attack parliament like Sengezo Shabangu. But when all these atrocities were taking place, these people were there. I mean, Pastor Tafumane Messiah died and these people were there. There was never a press conference. It tells you one thing. Neither of them care about us when they are eating, but they care about us when they are not eating, because it's only us that are the kingmakers. The reason why Zimbabweans do not have a majority government is not necessarily because they can't remove these people, but it is because that Zimbabweans themselves are too divided or are too preoccupied to focus on issues that concerns them. So I need to show you a video of what is this? Like before we speak a little further, I just need to show you a video of how Emmerson Mnangagwa's daughter, not daughter, or how this whole thing is being spoken about. And I just go there, the Bulawayo October conference, even from the Zanu PF constitution on its own, it was never a resolution that can be adopted by the party. The National People's Conference does not have such power. It's not a congress. A congress of Zanu PF takes place only after 5 years. So that means the ED 2030 plan also has legality challenges within Zanu PF itself. But let's watch this video.
Some of the issues that is raised in his statements are not legitimate. Well, the first and foremost thing one person should note is that one individual cannot go against a conference resolution. Conference was held last year. The grassroots communed. They cascaded their messages up through the structures until we reached conference. And at conference, this resolution has contention with was discussed further and adopted. So, Zanu PF decisions are not made in the media. Zanu PF decisions are not made through press conferences. Zanu PF decisions are made through discussion in the structures.
So, from that video, you could see that they are saying that how Zanu PF has adopted a certain resolution. Article 5 of their own constitution states that only the National People's Congress can decide on who's going to be a 2028 presidential candidate. Therefore, Mnangagwa can't be decided by them. Now, all of them, they know that the judiciary is rigged for any one of them to actually be taking each other to court. But however, they need a third party to legitimize, to sanitize their changes or their fight. They need the Zimbabwean public. And this is where we come in. Now, a lot of people like Hopo Chungono and a lot of political commenters have told Zimbabweans to stay away from these war fights. But let's be honest here, what is the alternative? Because even if we are to stay away, if we stay away and we allow Emmerson Mnangagwa to make this into a dynasty, we have not done ourselves a favor. But if we at least participate and maybe just sway Chiwenga in there, and we know that Chiwenga is no saint at all, he is not going, probably is not going to change anything at all. But I mean, the idea of just letting Mnangagwa and his kids run Zimbabwe thinking that they are untouchable is one that I cannot allow. That even if there is a donkey here and Emmerson Mnangagwa here, I would rather choose the donkey to be a president, not Emmerson Mnangagwa. Therefore, that's why we are telling you that we would rather rally behind Chiwenga. Let's look at this as facts here. Do we have an opposition? No. Every time we had an opposition, they always broke apart. It's no secret what is happening in Harare. Look at Mapfume, for example. Okay, the city of Harare is dilapidated. The city of Harare doesn't have service delivery. But Mapfume was voted for by the people under the Triple C banner. Mapfume, at some point, you could say that he was a leader of the opposition. But now, where is Mapfume? What is he doing? Mapfume is busy looting funds there. Also being involved as an illicit land baron or involved in such activities. But furthermore, US council members that are earning 12,000 US dollars per month, including some allowances that they get, compared to the average Harare citizen. So it tells you that there isn't even political will yet that is developed amongst the people within Zimbabwe. So our society is doomed politically without a driver, and we given a choice between a rock and a hard place. And in this case, maybe we'll take a hard place and just leave ED alone. Look at this video. And another thing, like what I mean about Zimbabweans, I need you guys to check this video of what happened last week when Winkner Chivayo's car was trying to be claimed. So all of those people were trying to get dollars from the so-called Mbinga. They were trying to get money from Winkner Chivayo despite mountains of evidence and mountains of allegations that Winkner Chivayo has been, looting the state funds. He has been looting them without any show of any employee that he actually employs or any show of his tax records. But people are there. They are busy celebrating a thief. That tells you what we have in Zimbabwe. We cannot dream of having a better and a well-functional society with an actual rule of law when we have such people being celebrated. When we have the majority actually trying to stop the city official from clamping Chivayo's car in Harare. That is just low level of thinking. Just for $5. That's what Zimbabweans have become, and that's why they can be exploited over and over again. Zimbabweans, they do not know that they do hold the power to actually overthrow any government that they do not like. The people that shoot people in town at the end of the day, or the people that actually brought to fight people, are the same soldiers that are also suffering, are the same soldiers that are there. So where is their national unity with the people? If you guys still remember around 2010s, 2011, when the Arab Spring was at its peak in Egypt, The soldiers were the first to leave the barracks and join the masses of the people to actually overthrow governments in those countries, in those North African countries. Can the same thing, do you think the same thing can happen in Zimbabwe? No, I don't think so. The masses are too preoccupied. If you go in Harare right now and you try to speak to some of the few people, you dare the brain say, nah, I don't care about politics, I don't care about this. And this is why we are never moving forward as a war second republic or anything of that particular sort. But speaking back to my issue here, what is the better alternative? Like, what happens next? The war veterans have now since get gotten. I'm asking, can they be trusted? First of all, the war veterans have grievances, and their grievances seems to be of those of a person that is economically excluded. Munabviswa patafura yechikafu. And Idi Mnangagwa, in a desperate attempt, has since issued them 1.5 million US dollars. Now, 1.5 million US dollars shared amongst 10 provinces become 150,000 US dollars. But counting the member war veterans in each province, it turns out to be a loan of just only $44. $44 is, to someone, it's money that, I don't know, money that ED doesn't even spend for lunch. It's too little for you. So basically, this is what I'm saying. Can the war veterans be trusted? And there was also been, made promises of land, of bowels, and all of those things. Can these guys be trusted and actually go in the street with them? Let's say their needs are actually met. Because I'm pretty sure some of them are considering. We saw one that just came out, and you are saying that if the constitution doesn't allow something, we as war veterans, we can just tear it up. And he's speaking on behalf of a constitutionalist president that till date hasn't come out to tell people that, hey, I'm a constitutionalist, no more ED 2030 things. Anyone who says ED 2030 must put take out of this party. But no one has said that in any particular. So they are all quiet. He's quiet. He's busy going to Tanzania. I mean, some people, they suspect that Emmerson Mnangagwa is actually under house arrest, and they want him to attend these events so that it doesn't look like something is happening at the international community, or something that might bring Chiwenga somehow into a place where he's called a treasonous actor. But from the looks of it, going back to my story here, from the looks of it, the war veterans are only out because they have been economically excluded from the eating that Chivayo is also doing. If everything was well in Zanu PF and they were on the table, trust me, they will be the first to sing the ED 2030 thing. For us, though, that are on the sidelines or on the opposition sidelines, we would rally behind any change in Zanu PF other than ED, other than his sons, other than his wife, because I think it should be clear that Zimbabwe is not a personal property of his own. It's not a personal property of his wife. It's not a personal property of his brothers and relatives. It should be clear. At least if that process can start where people, they have this awakening that no, this country belongs to people. The Republic of Zimbabwe the president does not own it. If maybe that idea can actually land in people's heads, and even if it is Chiwenga that will lead it, at some point I think the society will be radicalized enough to actually finally tell Zanu PF to go altogether. That's the ultimate goal, because these people in 2008, when people were dying, the Gezas were there as well. In 2008, when citizens were exiled, the Gezas were there. Under Mugabe, they were there. ED, when he was killing people in 2022, 2023, and the abduction that happened last year leading up to the SADA conference, the Gezas were there, and no one came out to condemn anything of that particular sort. And that should tell you one thing, that these guys are only here for the eating and the money, and don't put your hopes into them thinking that they're going to bring anything of that particular sort. But however, the only reason why you would vote them is from a strategic point of view. listen, you would actually rally behind them. It's from a strategic point of view of actually trying to allow some sort of a change in Zimbabwe, where where we don't see thieves like Winknell and Anamagaya vachibira vanhu vachinyepera vanhu vachita say but where nothing is happening to them, or where there isn't any sense of what is this, accountability. In a way, in a case where there is some sort of a change, or in a case where a society can show its leaders that it can change them at any time regardless of who they are, that would bring some sort of level of accountability. But the level that Zimbabwe has reached now, the accountability statistics are going to be quite difficult to follow. Accountability is going to be a difficult thing to achieve within the Republic of Zimbabwe, and that's the only reason why anyone saying should be voting for and what is should be rallying behind the Chiwengas. And again, I will retaliate. The ED 2030 plan is only as strong as the people may allow it. Or rather, Chiwenga's team is only as strong as the people may allow it. It's not strong because the Zanu PF has decided. Zanu PF will always come up with some sort of a gimmick of trying to say that the people have decided on this. But in a case where we didn't really vote for it, or where we don't really rally behind either of these factions, they cannot make their case heard across the world. In fact, I think Chiwenga factions need us more than they need they need us more than they need the soldiers, because one thing that the people of Zimbabwe do is they basically sign a social contract. That march, the military march that you saw in 2017, November 2017, was a necessary part to actually sanitize the coup, like Tafi the man is always saying. It was a necessary part and wouldn't let Zimbabwe's government be looked at and be frowned upon, to be legitimized as the legislative and the executive authority of over Zimbabwe, and that was very important for them to actually do that. Now they want us to do this again, and when we do this again, it would have been nice if we had the opposition that could cut them a deal to say that okay, if we are going to go through this with you, we would want 3 ministries, or we would want this amount of ministries out of this whole entire deal, and we would want this reform here, reform here, reform here. We sign the document, we honor it. And one thing that you must understand though at this point is that Zanu PF cannot go back together to the way that it was before this whole ED 2030 mantra. It's one of the leading reasons they can't go back to it is because if the ED 2030 mantra, let's say today, tomorrow they woke up and they're like, nah, okay, listen, we are going to just unite and be a united front. I don't think anyone would want to be carrying his 2030 plan, suspecting of his brother stealing from him behind his back. It wouldn't happen. It doesn't make sense. But also, one thing that you guys must know of what's coming in Harare, I think Talent Chiwenga, has become his brother's mouthpiece. Listen to this clip when you are saying Pacha Roots for Harare.
They are going to go to West. Vacharutsiwa zvekuti dhu paHarare. Nevamwe vanhu vanonzi havasati vamborutsa vacharutsa wena. Things are going to get bad. They will vomit. This is my first prophecy for Zimbabwe. Hanzi naChiwenga pacharutsiwa paHarare. Veringa here shona murando waMwari, tiri maziso kuti mashona. Vamwe vanonetseka. Dati nini paHarare pachaita sei? Pacharutswa.
You know, what is funny also is that I don't know where Emmerson Mnangagwa get the confidence, or whatever that guy that is so called to be his EU advisor is. Like, what is he thinking? Because calling a 2030 plan at the current status quo of the economy And with a country that is so broke, that doesn't have any money, that now you are even forcing tax on ngoro. Like ngoro, if I pay take $10 just to be in the road, you're forcing tax from everywhere where you can squeeze it. You're trying to squeeze it out of a vendor that is selling. You're trying to create some fake licenses. You're trying to give some fake penalties and everything of that particular sort, and still call for this 2030. Even let's say the resolution were to happen and you actually rig it, I think at some point here, this is when the people would actually wake up. Not wake up, but at least there will be a mass resistance, given that our people here would stand up. I mean, given that the instigators would be Chiwenga's team, and already a frustrated citizen that is being taxed kupusha ngoro ekutengesa mabanana in Harare. Already that person is frustrated and they are told, let's go and remove the president out of his seat. You think that they will let you go? No, of course not. You would be out there by tomorrow. If these people are anywhere or remotely any clever, Mnangagwa would seize that seat. You would leave that seat. You wouldn't be, I mean, at least maybe for now, we should be trying to play it nicely. I like what happened in Sri Lanka 2022, man. I just wish, like, maybe Zimbabweans, like, just one day, like how they stormed the presidential palaces and the president was seen at the airport trying to run away in Sri Lanka. Trying to run away, he ran away and he never came back after that. I wish that can just happen in Zimbabwe, just for an example. Just an example. I mean, listen, again, I'll say it again. Mozambicans are no longer paying target fees under Venancio Mondlane's instructions. Mozambicans as a collective have become opposition as a collective themselves. Frelimo doesn't have any support. Mozambicans are now doing whatever they want. That is the power of the people in mass numbers. Kwedu kwamukanzi kwete KFC nenjini yapo. Kwamukanzi chicken in, poita wantoshaya. Kwamukanzi chicken in apa kana try for wanzi chicken in. 100 more vantanga ushowa loyalty. Siyana nazo. Vachopata tapira chicken in nechingwa chine label yeZanu PF. I mean, look at this guy. Look at some of the opposition people that you actually went and put on the ballot voting for. Not particularly this guy, but people that were at the cricket farm along with him. That shows you our division. That shows you that it's easy to be bought, Zimbabwean masses to be bought by money. It's easy for money to manipulate our people. And that's because our people have, like, the unity, our people have, like, they do not unite in struggle, such as the people of Goma, for example. I know you could say Kagame is involved in Eastern DRCs, and I'd say that's given, and that's true, and that could be true perhaps. But when we tend to look at the situation of the people of Goma actually supporting the MK23 soldiers for invading or going actually into being the M23 themselves, you tend to see that they are united within a struggle. It's a complex issue to discuss that one, but let's discuss our neighbors in Mozambique. All of them rallying behind Venancio Mondlane, who told them that do not pay any toll fees. And they actually are not paying any toll gate fee. In Zimbabwe, you can't imagine that happening without your neighbor actually saying that, no, I know this one. Adopt your plate rices and PF. I know this one. And that is our problem. So that makes our issue of actually our social contract as a society, or our mass contract as a society, it's weak at that point. Weak because there is so much division. And at that point, it can be manipulated. Therefore, that's why we have incompetent people. We have an incompetent mass that can easily be divided, and incompetent masses that are easily lowered by gifts or by short-term promises, and that's why they end up like this. And I just hope that the war veterans, they do not make a stupid mistake of actually going to accept a donation of that 1.5 million funds, 1.5 million war veteran fund, of which, if we split it amongst 10 provinces, it becomes 150,000. Split it amongst the war veterans in each province. Their loan is basically $44, and maybe they'll get those balls and title deeds and some of the land that they own. But look at this. ED now knows who is likely to react to any of his plans, that might, who are going to be the people that might be a headache in his pain. So you go after them, silently poisoning them and all of them. Like the general since the 2017 coup, ED will be like that. And the guy needs to be clever. With all that being said, our people of Harare, or the people in Zimbabwe, I don't know where most of you guys are watching me from or watching this run from. And I really wish that maybe you could comment, but I know. I know, but I really wish that you maybe would have a side chat about some of these issues, and maybe we would have responses in the chat box. And however, um, however, our society, at the end of the day, it needs to take a hard look on itself, and actually determine what it needs or what it thinks about itself or what it wants about itself, or actually identify our union struggle. That's the only way to be in a struggle, to feel to feel the unity in the trenches of this dark economy and this dark governance, to feel like you are with a brother in the trenches, a brother that you know won't that got your back and won't shoot you, a brother that you know if someone says act, all of you guys will act, and not someone that will be hiding while you're acting alone. If Zimbabweans for once can be like that, they can transform the country. And Zanu PF, neither any party can do anything to them. I mean, at the end of the day, the biggest political party Zimbabwe can ever have, or the biggest government Zimbabwe can ever have, it's Zimbabweans themselves. You can't lead the people that don't want to be led. Even a headmaster at school, he can, I mean, people naturally submit, like on a natural basis. People submit, like people like order. That's the truth. But people submit their autonomy to be led by a particular leader, and that's natural amongst people. People, they submit their leadership basically by voting. You're submitting to be led by a particular person because you want order. But at a point where people, they actually realize that you are incompetent and you are not working towards their vision or their perceptions, is no matter how strict of a leader or no matter how strict the teacher is, if the children in that class become unruly, or if those people become unruly, I can promise you they cannot do anything about it. And that's one thing that we need as Zimbabweans: the unity in the trenches, the unity to feel like I have a brother within the trenches of this country, to feel like, okay, we do have some sort of an identified struggle. I mean, lobbying for Form 4s, or lobbying for kids to go to school, lobbying for these things to be fixed. Trust me, these people will come right. They can do this 2030 thing. Varutaranya's 2030, and they already know that elections, when they come, they will rig them. But in this case, it's difficult. That's why ED want to actually skip elections, because he knows that even if they say that he manages to eliminate people out of his party, when it comes to the election time in 2028, they know his background info, they know everything, they've been inside the system, so they can easily sabotage him and actually lose. Or they could actually easily form another political party of their own and actually kick ED out. That's why he wanted to jump the elections in 2028. He wants to jump any checkpoint that goes to check him in 2028. Inini zvangu nokukudza iti 2030 ED anenge ari muguva, maybe of natural causes, or 2030 kunenge 2030 anenge ari muchikurudi, or 2030 you'll be a fugitive somewhere. Those are the only possibilities that I can see. But as a country, it's been almost half a century, and it's for a black person, I mean, for black people, it's kind of like embarrassing that we find ourselves crossing to Europe, and we find ourselves, especially Zimbabweans, they find themselves everywhere asking for what's the best visa program that they can get into, knowing that back home there is nothing for them. Some of them people have lived their lifetimes in Zimbabwe and there is basically nothing. And it's embarrassing, and it removes your dignity as a Zimbabwean. Especially sometimes when I look at the Twitter, like when I look on Twitter, I tend to run into some posts, and you see how the right wing movement of anti-immigration is so against Zimbabweans. Oh no, not against Zimbabweans in London, but against everyone, labeling people from Muslim countries. But even next door, like down the Limpopo border, there is the same thing is happening. When are we going to restore our dignity? Anyways, I've been talking too much. Thank you for watching this. I hope that next time you guys, you be interacting or can interact on the screen. Thank you.